and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm Elliot Margolis, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Gail Burke, George Binns, and Stuart Gardner with another edition of the 5 Minus 1. Tonight, our topic is socialism, and we got some differing views on it. I just want to read you a definition of socialism so that we can get started on the right foot. The term is sometimes used more generally to mean a political system that generates a more equal society with less divergence in wealth and income, and with more equal power relationships between people and as workers and employees. Socialism's popularity generally waned towards the end of the 20th century. In some ways, as its history has paralleled that, its more extreme relation of communism. However, there's been a renewed interest in socialism. It's partly due to a perception by some people, I won't mention the names of the Democrats that it is, that income and wealth gaps have become too big, and partly due to the deep concerns over the apparent inbuilt instability of unregulated capitalism. So, we're talking here about basically the government controlling more things and the divergence of income. Now, Stuart.
Elliot.
The first question goes to you. How do you feel about the divergence of income? Should we have income stability among all the people?
So my short answer is going to be yes, but my long answer is going to be there has to be some sort of equilibrium in income. The top 3 wealthiest guys in the United States have as much assets as the bottom 50%. That's 230 million people have the same assets as 3 people. That's just ridiculous. It's unsustainable, and we can't do it. I don't want the government coming in and taking control of Ford. I don't want the government coming in and taking control of Facebook. But I don't want Facebook distributing my information out. I don't want British Petroleum dropping oil throughout the Gulf of Mexico for 6 months and not being able to shut it down. We've got to find a better way to control these big companies, and I think a form of socialism is the way to do it.
A form of socialism.
Form of socialism.
Let me tell you some
Hit me.
conundrums
Hit me, not too
of
hard.
socialism. Here are 6 conundrums of socialism in the United States. America is capitalist and greedy, yet half of the population is subsidized. Half of the population is subsidized, yet they think they are victims. They think they are victims, yet their representatives run the government. Their representatives run the government, yet the poor keep getting poorer. The poor keep getting poorer, yet they have things that people in other countries only dream about. They have things that people in other countries only dream about, yet they want America to be more like those other countries. Makes you wonder. Think about it. That sums up the USA in the 21st century.
Well, some of that stuff is very subjective, obviously.
Well, let me read a couple more things.
Please.
By the way, we're advised to not judge all Muslims by the actions of a few lunatics. But we are encouraged to judge all gun owners by the actions of a few lunatics. Funny how that works. Seems we constantly hear about how Social Security is going to run out of money, but we never hear about welfare or food stamps running out of money. What's interesting is the first group worked for their money, but the second didn't. Think about it.
The problem I have with this whole socialism movement is that they're totally maligning the word, mangling it. Classically, socialism means the government takes over control of production and distribution.
Right.
And socialism is one step, according to Karl Marx and friends, on the way to communism.
Yep.
That's the way it starts. So they're taking a word and throwing it into a mix that really, from the discussion we've had so far, is, well, we want to redistribute the income is what it comes down to. There is a certain amount of envy that you emphasized because three people have done extremely well in the stock market. That's where they got their money from. The market goes up and down.
They build companies.
So you talk about wealth in terms of dollars value in the stock market, it's very ethereal. What happened in December? All of a sudden, everybody got tanked, and now it's slowly creeping back. So the real value of a lot of this wealth is imaginary. So we get down to the real problem of what are people really having difficulty with? And you talk about the lack of opportunity from somebody coming out of the low rent district, or the lack of opportunity of some of the immigrants, and it takes a long time. I think all our parents, grandparents, great-great-grandparents went through a similar process. You can't come into this country and become instantly wealthy.
I don't think anyone wants that. I don't think, all right, again, not that you guys speak for all conservatives. I don't speak for all liberals. I'm sure there's a lot of liberals that want to go further to the left than I do. Bernie Sanders is further to the left than I am. But I think the short memory, the Great Recession of 2008, the BP oil spill, big companies run amok, right? And I don't like government regulating businesses because they don't understand how the businesses work.
That's
Right?
true. Yes.
But I want regulations on the businesses because I don't want them running amok. So I think socialism is almost a way to accomplish that in the sense that
How does socialism regulate anything?
I'll explain to you, because what you could do is you could say once a company is big enough, 70% of all internet traffic goes through Amazon, right? Jeff Bezos controls 70% of all internet commerce. That's just wrong. That's why you broke up AT&T 40, 50 years ago. That's just wrong. That shouldn't happen. That's a monopoly. He owns the internet, basically.
Yeah.
You want to run something, you've got to run it through him. That makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to the rest of us. You guys like small businesses. You want small businesses to grow. You want individuals to thrive. And how are they going to thrive if the rules are made by one person?
But wait a minute. You've already said that government really doesn't know anything. So how is government going to solve that particular problem, number one? Number two, wait a minute, just calm yourself down a little bit, okay? If you know history,
I know history a
okay,
little bit.
what country in the last 250 years has accomplished more than the United States? Capitalist system.
I don't think any of them.
Oh, that's right, because it's capitalist. Because people are going to be rewarded for what they accomplish. Under socialism, people are not rewarded. And what happens with socialism is you lose the entire incentive to work.
I agree completely. So you're talking theory, Elliot. I'm not talking.
No, that's practice.
No, you're thinking about you're like looking at countries that I'm not comparing us to. I'm not comparing us to the Soviet Union. I'm not comparing us to Venezuela. I'm not comparing us to some Scandinavian countries that run socialism. We are kind of a socialist country. We have Medicaid. We have Social Security. We have welfare.
That's welfare. Welfare and socialism are totally different subjects. You're trying to merge them together and confuse people.
But what he's saying in theory, you're gonna. The socialists want to shut down capitalism, and they want to make it so that you're not rewarded for individuality, you're not rewarded for.
No,
for
that's
your efforts.
communism.
That's what you said. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about exactly the way the world is now, right? So anyone can own a business. You make as much money as you can. You can do what you can. But at a certain point, when your business is too big, and I don't know what the answer is. You're gonna say how big? I don't know.
Oh, really?
Here's an example. Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is worth $700 billion. That's too big.
Who decides what is too big?
I don't know, but I know that's too big.
Yeah.
Who decides when you've made enough money? You want the government to control that.
I want the people to control. You guys see the government as a bad guy. I see the government as the people.
No, I see the government is basically incompetent because they don't do the job. They've got a law on the books that controls the size of corporations. Theodore Roosevelt made his bones by being the trust buster. Okay? He broke up, and some of his successors broke up Eastern States Standard Oil,
Yes.
Esso,
Yeah.
and a few other of these monopolies. And this has slowly crept back into the system where monopolies are running the country. We're down to what, 6 airlines right now?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's. I don't think we can
How
have
many-
more. That's certain industries
No, I'm
can't
sorry,
afford.
we got 3 airlines now. We've got 6 movie companies. How many car companies do we have in this country?
a ton.
2.5. Chryslers are,
Well, there's other car companies that are in the market.
okay. But at one time, there were a myriad of car companies. You can't go buy a shot of Frascini right now, or a Duesenberg, or a Locomobile. They
Yeah.
all went out of business. They all got
You
conglomerated
can buy a Tesla,
into.
though.
So we have a serious problem that the laws on the books against monopolies have not been enforced since, as you pointed out, AT&T got broken up. So that is the problem you're alluding to. Don't call it socialism.
What I think that I think how our country could benefit, I think the people could benefit, is if somehow we, and I understand we don't know where the line is to draw, but some of these companies are too big and have too much power.
Yeah.
Don't you remember Too Big to Fail? Remember when like 25% of the people lost their houses? And I get there's a lot of, in 2008 from the Great Recession, there were a lot of people to go around. But one of the blames was the lack of regulations for these debt instruments that were being sold to other banks that were all mixed up with these mortgages, and the mortgages went bad and the banks went bad, and we had to pay for it. That was the people's money that had to pay for that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well,
that was a mistake.
That was a big
That was a
mistake.
mistake. We rewarded people who were incompetent. That's a mistake.
Yeah.
And that
It
happened
never
under
should
a
have happened.
Democrat president. Remember, he was picking companies
I thought it was
to
George
give
Bush that
money.
happened.
It was.
He was a
It
Republican.
was Bush. Bush was wrong.
Bush was a Republican.
Obama, remember when he picked companies to give money to, like Cylinder,
Well, but the
that
pro-
went
but
out
the-
of
but the
business?
problem happened
that
during
was
George
our
Bush.
money that when he was picking and choosing which companies.
I
He-
don't
he's a
Yeah, but
guy
that's a
who,
separate. That's a separate issue because Solyndra was a separate issue from what we're talking.
but it isn't because he was picking and choosing. He was putting limits. He was saying, okay, we're going to reward this company and give them all this money.
Yeah.
Our money. Wasn't his money.
I don't
bailed out
want
General Motors.
I don't want.
Yeah.
Well, General Motors also has what 200,000 employees or some ungodly number of employees.
Well, we get back to this whole question again that started with Eric Holder when he published his little memo about be careful about prosecuting large corporations because look what happened to Anderson. When Enron went down, they went after Anderson. Anderson folded up the shop one day, and there were 28,000 people on the street, just like that.
I agree. I think, but so let me ask you this: so if we have to act as a safety net for things like this to happen, if we're going to say, look, GM's too big, we're not going to let it go out of business, or Citibank's got too much money, we can't let it go under because it's too many mortgages, or a company, the next Enron, we can't let it go out. If we're going to do that anyway, shouldn't we be allowed to somehow get in front of these problems and properly run some of this stuff so that
Let me say it again. We ought to start enforcing the laws against monopolies.
yeah.
We haven't done this since the Bush administration.
Well, the laws have to be rewritten because the monopoly laws don't understand how commerce works today.
Okay, so we need to have new laws. But now we have, excuse me, a fresh new congresswoman
Yes.
who seems to be the leader of the Democrat Party. And she has come up with this humongous Green New Deal
Yes.
where she wants to, first of all, she wants to get rid of cows that fart.
Farting cows.
That's right, because
Flatulence.
Flatulence.
Yes,
Fart.
it's a family.
Yeah.
Do we have a
because
translation for it?
Can we give them some mail-outs or something?
they're
Is there something
causing
we can-
methane gas
Yes,
to
I know.
pollute them. Yeah. She wants to get rid of airplanes, all airplanes. She wants to build new trains.
Trains I like.
How do you get a train from California to Hawaii?
A long tunnel.
A bridge,
A big bridge.
3,000-mile bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane the things
It'll
this,
take.
this
We
woman
don't
is
have to
talking
worry about
about.
that, and I'll tell you why we don't have to worry about that. It'll take more than 12 years to build that tunnel to get to Hawaii, and the world's going to end in 12
Oh, that's
years.
right. No, 10 years now.
Oh, is it 10 years?
It's 10 years
We
now.
We get a reprieve.
But
You know, so we don't
problem
really need to
is-
worry about
The
that.
problem is, she has now stated every Democrat presidential candidate supports the Green New Deal. Every single one of them.
I'm sure
That's
it's a
what she
version
says.
of it. I'm sure it's a version.
A
of something.
version. Well, how many
they
versions
all-
do you have?
They all pick and choose the pieces that they like.
But everything that she's saying is foolishness.
Yeah.
She has no way, she will not answer how do you pay for it. Oh, the wealthy will pay for it. We'll tax the wealthy at
See,
70%.
According to certain definitions, one could argue that you're wealthy.
I'm
my
the bad
question,
guy.
my question to you would be, are you willing to, or have you already given up most of your income to pay for this socialistic policy?
The party that
Have you
you
moved it
support.
offshore so it can't be touched?
Exactly. Yes, of course. They're going to
okay.
fill out the new federal
I mean,
form.
this
to
is
do
the
that.
the fallacy.
We,
They don't-
we were talking about the unequal distribution of wealth. And that's what's happening in this country. And my fear
so
is,
what?
but because you guys don't understand that there are, fine, there's a bunch of us that are done well enough that can pay their bills. But there's a whole big population, whether you like them or think they're lazy or think whatever you think about them, that don't. And you know what happens when people don't have income? They riot. They
Why
revolt.
don't they have the same opportunity that we have?
I don't know, but it's our
I'll
job
tell
to
you
figure
one
it out.
That's the
reason
real
why.
problem that should be solved.
Yes, well,
the one
that's
reason
what
why-
certain
The
type of folks
example
want
that,
to do.
okay, you want to talk about the Scandinavian countries in the socialism.
Paul.
They tried this game of having people get income, basic income.
I know, yeah.
They did it for 2,000 people. It's going to run 2 years. It's about halfway through this little experiment. And already they're finding out that people are taking the money and they're not trying to go back to work.
No.
Because the
Scratch
whole
tickets and-
idea
well,
that...
Like Elliot
No,
said.
this is a philosophical problem
Yeah.
that if you're on unemployment compensation and you get any kind of job at all, the unemployment compensation disappears.
Yeah.
So
That's
they
the
like
negative
freebies.
income
I don't
tax.
want handouts. I want to solve the problem of income inequality.
Then you have to solve, I'll tell you one way you have to do it, which will give everybody the opportunity. You have to improve the schools, the education system,
So let's-
the way it works. And it's not a matter of how many dollars. It's a matter of training competent teachers. It's getting rid of Common Core, which is a government takeover
I
of
think
public
more money would
schools.
help, but go
Well,
ahead.
number
Spend
one,
it
more money
wisely.
won't help.
No,
But
it
what
won't.
will help is something that's really very simple. No more inclusion. Okay, if you can't speak English, you learn to speak English before you get into our classrooms. Okay, that's important. I think if somebody is unfortunate enough not to have the certain abilities that other people have, they shouldn't be mainstreamed into the classroom.
right.
Because what happens is when you mainstream people that can't keep up, then the smarter kids are being
Slow down.
taken advantage of,
So you-
and they fall back. We don't educate the kids the way we should be educating kids. We don't value the kids that are smart. We just don't.
I think immigrants. So go. I just want to. I agree with some of what you said, but I'm not sure. Like I know that like immigrants learned English, but they didn't learn English before they came here. My grandparents didn't know English when they came here. They learned it, and I get it.
That's
I
right.
understand.
How did they
So,
learn it? They
Not
were
in the
put, they
classroom.
were
I don't-
put into schools with other children,
So let's
and
do
they
that.
had to learn it. They were immersed in
Agreed.
it.
I'm
Let's
okay
do-
with that. Let's do that.
Okay, then
But
get
no,
rid
what
of
we
all
do,
this bilingual
the liberal
nonsense.
policy is inclusion for everybody, and that destroys our school system.
And you think this is-
And we have kids now that don't even know that George Bush was president. We don't teach history.
No.
And if you don't learn from history, you don't learn.
All I can say is that I'm not exactly sure if this is going to solve our income inequality gap now. I mean, I like your ideas. You're saying that the school systems aren't working because immigrants come in this country and we put everybody in the same room and they're not the same
Well,
speed.
the public schools have had a big problem for many years, and they fight tooth and nail against charter schools.
Yeah, I know.
And yet some of these charter schools are very, very successful. Give parents choice. They need choices. They don't like the public school their children are in. Let them have a choice of going somewhere else.
Why wouldn't more money work? And the other problem with
What do
that.
you need more
Because the
money for?
money isn't spent wisely.
You know what the money is spent
is
for?
spent for ridiculous things.
But that's what in the private sector, whenever there's a problem, they give it more resources. Why, if we
But
have a
this
problem
is
with our
the
school system, why
public
would they give it more
sector.
All
resources?
we
They
do-
have the money.
All we do is give them money for another administrator.
Yeah.
And the administrators who are making $200,000 a year, we have to pay for their cell phones too. It's ridiculous. We don't need more administrators. We need more books. We need more pencils. We need more paper. We need to teach kids We don't need the administrators.
Give you an
They have too
example.
much paperwork to
Showed
do.
up in the paper today.
Which
that-
paper?
What?
Which paper? The
Globe.
Globe, okay.
Yeah, that the kids in the Metco program
Oh, I saw that.
are doing better in terms of graduation rate from high school, getting into college, than either the kids from the school they came from or the kids in the charter school. So that tells you something about the difference in the quality of education. There was an article on the Curora by a teacher from Chicago. They got asked the same question, what's the problem? And part of his answer to the problem is the parents are not there to help the kids with the homework, with the motivation, and the ideal of, hey, you get a good education, you get a good job, you do well. So there are lots of ingredients in this.
Yeah.
And just saying, hey, we're going to do socialism doesn't solve it.
But no one's saying that. I mean, I know you read the Green New Deal
Yes,
and whatnot,
they
but no
are
one's saying that.
saying it.
No, I think what people
Your party is saying it. They're all jumping on board. Bernie Sanders
I just heard
said
him.
it.
I just heard him today. He said he talked about the income inequality, and he said, why can't we have health care, a broader system of health care? Why
Who
can't
he?
Bernie
Bernie
Sanders.
Bernie Sanders.
Single payer is what he's
But
talking
let me
about.
ask you something. Bernie Sanders has a lot of money, and he got it from the capitalistic system. Now that he's got all this money and he drives a $100,000 car, he wants everybody else to donate. Is he donating?
I don't think it's they want everyone to donate. It's
And how
it's,
did he make his money?
I
It
think it's-
wasn't through
I
a
think
How
it's
about
business.
Liz Warren? Liz Warren
There
taught
you
one
go.
class at Harvard, and she got paid $350,000 for it, and she's complaining that it's too expensive to be in college.
So you guys, you know, it's interesting. These guys devote their lives, and I get it. They've made some money, but they devote
Devote their
they devote their
lives?
free time
Oh,
and their
come
lives to try
on.
to make the country a better
No,
place.
they
And you guys
don't.
complain about the money that they make? Yeah, they
No,
could-
I'm not complaining about the money she makes. I'm talking about the hypocrisy of her.
And-
She,
and-
she,
and
wants,
while
she, wants,
they're-
she wants existing tax dollars to maybe
While
not
they're
go for military
devoting their
spending
lives,
or
what
other
are they
stuff.
doing? What
You
are
know-
they
you
doing?
notice-
They're
They
trying
don't-
to improve the.
If we don't
You
have
notice
to-
that
they
she
don't
wants
have
to
Obamacare.
increase the taxes for people who make more money than she does.
She wants to increase tax. They all want to
That's
increase.
right.
They all want to increase taxes on people with $10 million or more in assets. I don't have a problem with that. If you have $10
Because
million,
you haven't got to the 10 million
I haven't
threshold
hit.
yet.
Yeah, I haven't hit the 10 million. So call me when I hit the $10 million.
Okay, yeah.
Let's
Oh,
get-
wait a second. No, let's get to the hardcore.
Time. Now let's get down to reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the income tax was passed in 1913,
Yes.
it was 1%
Yep.
on the first 3,000, on anything over $3,000.
Yeah, it was to pay for World War I.
Yeah.
Have they
And
paid
it
for it yet?
was a couple of percent on something over $5,000. Okay? And if you go through the numbers today and convert those things into current year dollars, somebody who was making the equivalent to $3,000 back then is now paying 22% tax.
Time out. I am.
No time. Let me finish mine.
All right.
The whole problem is once the camel gets his nose under the tent, everybody's going to be taxed on their wealth. And what's going to
Well, I
happen to
think
your
so.
house and your 401k?
I already pay taxes on my houses because I have real estate
Not,
taxes.
not government tax.
So hold on a second. So I am thrilled if you want to lower federal income taxes. I'm thrilled. What pisses me off is Amazon made $11 billion last year and didn't pay $1 in taxes, and you guys are thrilled to
That's
get $60
because,
million.
not
that's
Amazon's
because
fault.
of the tax
That's
Of course, it's not
laws.
Amazon's fault. Of course
That's,
it
that's
is.
tax
Congress not
laws.
doing its job.
But you guys complain all the time about taxes and whatnot. That's ridiculous. Government. These are
complains?
big companies should be paying their fair share taxes.
But that's Congress, and the reason
Yeah,
why
that's right.
Congress
The Republicans
doesn't
just
do
did
it
that whole
is
tax
for a
code.
simple
No,
reason.
that's another
Congress,
phony word.
$11
Fair
billion,
share.
$11 billion they made last year and didn't make
Fine.
them pay a dime in taxes.
And how much of it got stuffed overseas so they don't have to pay 35%?
I don't know the details.
No, I'm serious. Find out.
But I don't think. But I know they made a lot of money. Jesus
all
hasn't
the-
paid taxes in years.
I know, for the same reason. The money's all overseas.
So we
This
should
is-
stop that.
This is a
That's
problem.
right, and that's what Trump is trying to do.
You just redid the tax code. He had the House, he had the Senate, and he redid the tax code. And all he did was give big tax breaks to these people.
No, he didn't. No,
No, he
get
did
out of here.
not.
See,
there are
you-
many, many
you said-
people that were very happy for the crumbs
Yeah.
that Nancy Pelosi talked about. She wants to take away those crumbs. Well, if they're crumbs, why do you want to take away from them?
Yeah, did you see a picture of her house?
I'm sure it's big.
And the
Behind the
moat around
gates,
it?
behind the gates.
Keep the zombies out.
And the alligators
But
in the
let's, yeah,
moat?
let's
Keep the
not,
zombies out.
let's
She
not
is
have
a
any
zombie.
walls, but we'll have a moat,
No,
you know?
seriously,
Yeah,
you
and they
want to talk?
don't want to. They don't want to appropriate money for the wall to keep murderers and disease and everything else out. So don't tell me that Congress is doing its job. It's not doing its job.
I don't think Congress is doing its job, and I don't. I
Well,
think
you
that-
just said that they're well-meaning and
I
they're
said
doing
no. I
the
said the
job.
Republicans had the House, had the Senate,
Right.
and the president,
And
they
failed.
and they
And they
had
failed.
And failed.
And if it was
Yeah.
such an emergency with the wall, why didn't he do it 2 years ago or
Yeah.
a year ago?
The
that's-
fact of the matter is that both Republicans
I think
and
he had other
Democrats
things
are
on his
involved.
mind.
But the problem is, we all complain about Congress, but our congressman is okay.
Yeah.
And the problem is then
Oh,
they
yeah.
get reelected. That's a real
I'm
problem.
not in love with our congressman. I just there's not much
I don't
choice.
think our congressman's
It's
okay.
crazy
You know
on the
what I'm
left or
saying.
crazy on the right. You guys are the crazy on the right. I'm the crazy on the left. That's
No.
it.
I
That's all
don't
we
think we're
have.
crazy.
No, if you get down to something serious,
Yes.
get back to the issue of the money that's stuffed overseas in banks, either by corporations or by people who are very wealthy.
Right.
Why is that happening? Because we got this screwed up tax code.
Right.
It's cheaper to keep the money overseas and invest the money overseas and expand your business overseas than it is to bring it back here and put people in this country to work.
I think it's wrong.
That is a screwed up system that the government got us into. That should be fixed. And it's not going to be fixed by taxing somebody who's got $10 billion. And that's another myth that they keep getting into. Oh, we're going to tax the rich. That's going to solve all
Yeah,
the problems.
not gonna solve
There aren't
anything.
that many rich.
No one ever said it's going to
Just
solve the
a word
problems.
of warning.
Please.
We've hit the 3-minute mark.
Mark. I don't think anyone says that. I think that's a fallacy on the right that the left says we're going to tax the rich and everything. I just think it
Yeah.
should be more fair because what they do is they hide
What
their money in
is fair?
Because they hide their money in capital gains. I don't because I pay a lot in taxes and I can't hide
So
my
do
money in
I.
capital
Everybody
gains.
does. We
No.
all pay too much in taxes.
But I'd rather see the wealthier people, like the people that are super wealthy, like the billionaires, and I'd like to see the bigger companies pay more
Why do
more
you
more
worry
taxes.
so much about
you
what
pay-
they're
no.
paying?
Because
You're going to drive the money overseas. We've already got a problem with money
We see
being
what's happening
stashed
in New
overseas.
York. What's happening in New York? Their taxes are so high. These wealthy people, what are they doing? They're moving to Florida.
some are. Some
A
of
lot
some
of
my
them are.
clients.
A lot of them
Some
are.
of my clients.
Look at the people in California. They're leaving California in droves.
Well, we've
They're
got to find a
moving
better
to
way to do it.
Texas.
We've got to find. This is all. This is go. Let me just go back to the original thing. This is about income distribution, about the problem, and it's got to be fixed. And I don't say fix
But
it by
you
giving
can't
money.
take the
I don't-
incentive away from
I
people
I don't
to
want to do
make
that.
money.
I don't want to do that, and I don't want to give them any money.
I don't.
So we just don't wanna find a better
think
way.
we need it to be fixed. I don't. I think we need to have better laws. We certainly need to have better tax laws
Yeah.
that doesn't allow this kind of thing. But Congress isn't doing its job.
Hey, here's the way we solve the problem. Nobody who makes more than $100,000 a year is allowed to be in Congress.
There you go.
Okay? Because what happens then is they've got nothing to say for themselves.
No, and they
that's
have to
what's
pay.
happening.
They have to pay the taxes. They have to be included in the same kind of health care that they want us to be included in. They need to be have the same things that we do. When they get free travel back and forth, stop these junkets where they go traveling on our dime.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
You know, shorten the election time, the campaign time. We don't need 2 years of campaign.
England does that. What's it, like 2 months or something?
Anyway,
Whatever. But anyway,
next time.
Everyone breathe.
this is quite a workout.
Everyone breathe.
We need an hour show.
We do. Thank you all. We've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I think we all have. Thank you, the public, for watching us. We hope you'll tune in again for another lively discussion in the not too distant future, I don't think. Thank you for watching.
Part 2, socialism.
We could do a part 2.
Capitalism.
Thank you for watching and good night.